All right, everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks for your patience. Like Shuli said, we're going to record this version. We'll upload it. We'll share it with you guys so that you can use it in your stories if you're not able to record right now. Sorry about that technical difficulty. We're here today to discuss the mayor's proposed budget. We know that there's a lot going on today, so we're really grateful that you've taken some time to meet with us. Mayor's going to give some introductory remarks. We're going to pass it over to some city leadership and bureau leadership and program leaders, and we'll go from there. Right now on the mayor's website, we just posted an overview of the mayor's budget. We posted the full materials, so you guys will have some materials there that you can work with your stories. With that, I'll pass it over to you, Mayor.
All right, thanks, Cody. I appreciate that. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Before I kick this off, I want to acknowledge that there's a lot going on in the community today, in particular, the incidents down at Portland State University. This is an active police operation. It's one that I'm monitoring closely as the police commissioner. You can go to the Portland Police Bureau website for the most up-to-date information on what's taking place at PSU. I also want to make clear that within the next couple of hours, in partnership with the Portland Police Bureau, I will be holding a press conference to specifically address the operation at Portland State University. This morning, I had invited you here to provide the highlights of my proposed 2024-2025 budget. And I just want to acknowledge right up front that the juxtaposition of these two issues is very unfortunate. And ordinarily, we would not attempt to have a press conference on a budget matter at the same time as an ongoing police operation of this magnitude. However, we are in a position where, due to budget law and to the timing required, we need to release our budget tomorrow afternoon. And I believe it's important that we have the opportunity to share highlights with you today. It is a large document, it is complex, and I think I owe you the context of what is in the full fiscal year budget today, notwithstanding the important events that are taking place at PSU. And as I say, we will update you in a couple of hours with regard to the events at PSU. So focusing on the budget, next Tuesday, May 7th, the council will convene as the budget committee for a work session on my proposed budget. Then on Thursday, May 9th, council will convene once again as the budget committee for a public hearing on the proposed budget, at which time we will take public testimony on that budget. My fiscal year 2024-25 budget totals $8.2 billion, and it's the culmination of months of work on the part of my staff, the city budget staff, and bureau leadership. It takes into account significant community input, community-wide surveys, as well as the important suggestions from my colleagues on the Portland City Council. And I want to thank them for their hard work in giving us feedback to craft this executive budget. First, some context. Over the course of my administration, I have led Portland through what I believe is the most challenging period in our city's history. We have faced numerous, unprecedented, and often overlapping crises: a rapid increase in unsheltered homelessness, rising rates of crime and gun violence, livability issues related to glitter and graffiti, and the strain on our economy in the wake of the pandemic, just to name a few of the many issues that we're currently addressing. In response, my colleagues on the City Council and I have led by creating and investing in many new programs and initiatives. In many cases, we've been able to completely reshape the way that the city addresses the most complex challenges facing our community. The Street Services Coordination Center, Safe Rest Villages, the temporary alternative shelter sites are all working together to successfully stand up shelter sites with navigation, services, and ultimately access to appropriate housing. The Impact Reduction Program and the Public Environmental Management Office are readily cleaning litter and abating graffiti to improve livability throughout the city. The Focused Intervention Team the Enhanced Community Safety Team, Safe for Portland, and the ceasefire programs are all working in collaboration to reduce gun violence in Portland. We brought on additional law enforcement to continue efforts around reducing retail and auto theft, as well as drug crimes. With these programs and many others at work, we laid the foundation for bold change and what I believe is ultimately going to be a strong recovery for our city. While we carry out this groundbreaking work, we're also leading the effort to completely overhaul our government and management structure as directed by voters in November 2022. We're on track to complete this work on time. Despite the tough budget season, my proposed budget seeks to institutionalize and to support these successful new programs that are showing positive results already. We can't allow a tough budget environment to become an excuse to retrench in any way. With that, let's review our budget process and my guidance to the bureaus. It's important to keep in mind that 90% of the total budget is already dedicated to critical work like construction of new parks, treating our drinking water, paving our streets, operating the city's sanitary sewer system, and building affordable housing. That is the non-general fund component of the budget. It's the lion's share of the budget. It is incredibly important, but those resources are already budgeted and they are already allocated. So we tend not to talk about them in the same breath as when we talk about the general fund budget. The remaining 10%, the general fund, is a more discretionary resource within our budget. And the vast majority, if not all, of these funds are already committed to important programming like police, fire, 911 emergency response services, as well as daily operations of our parks and recreational services. This budget cycle, we're facing unique fiscal constraints with the expiration of one-time federal support dollars, ongoing inflation, declines in certain key revenue streams, and a backlog of deferred maintenance, resulting in an original anticipated budget gap of over $70 million. Despite the complex crises, the ongoing transformation work, and the budgetary challenges, my proposed budget for fiscal year 2024-25 is a balanced budget, and it builds on the momentum we've achieved in meeting the most critical needs of Portlanders. As such, I directed all general fund programs, with the important exceptions of Portland Fire and Rescue, the Portland Police Bureau, and the Bureau of Emergency Communications, to budget with a 5% constraint on current appropriation levels. We sought to protect the funding for public safety. This resulted in an overall general fund reduction of roughly $11.9 million spread across all city bureaus. In the early months of 2024, service areas met with their commissioners in charge to identify and prioritize cost reductions, assess and provide policy options for key financial issues specific to their service areas, and to identify any opportunities for collaboration. I then met with each commissioner in charge and their service area bureau directors to understand both the impact of constraints on service levels, as well as figuring how their bureaus were working to support and uphold council priorities when formulating my executive budget, my proposed budget. We also hosted a series of public work sessions on each service area, and we received public input on budget priorities through community listening sessions. And many of you who are attending this Zoom call reported on those sessions, and I thank you for that. One opportunity for collaboration became very apparent in this budget process in realizing the shared goals and the work of the City of Portland and the Portland Clean Energy Community Benefits Fund, or PCEF. The city is ever aware of our carbon footprint and the impact that our fleet, our facilities, our contracting work, and other areas have on our community and our region. And that's why we established our climate goals in the first place. Through the Portland Clean Energy Surcharge revenues, PCEF has a projected surplus of $540 million over the next 5 years. Staff within the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, the city's budget office, and various city bureaus work together to identify eligible projects that align with PSEF's mission, goals, and technical requirements. Our collaboration over the last several months demonstrates the immense potential for continued partnership, fueling the cultural change needed for the city to fully lean into sustainable business practices and to ultimately achieve our climate goals. I want to extend my gratitude to the PSEF committee for their engagement and carrying out the community process to review and approve the projects included within this budget to ensure that they align with PSEF's goals. In particular, I'd like to thank my colleague, Commissioner Rubio, and her staff for leading this process, and share my thanks to Commissioners Mapps and Commissioner Ryan for working with their bureaus to identify potential projects. By matching specialized funding sources like PSEF with appropriate projects, we were able to then fund other city priorities. The citywide Portland Insight Survey clearly identified public safety as a top priority for Portlanders. That should be no surprise to any of us. My budget fully funds public safety bureaus and public safety programs. The Portland Police Bureau, Portland Fire and Rescue, the Bureau of Emergency Communications, the Police Vehicle Theft Task Force, the Focused Intervention Team, the Enhanced Community Safety Team, the Office of Violence Prevention, Rose City Self-Defense, and ceasefire programs are all fully funded to continue leading the way to a safer and more livable community. I want to thank Commissioner Gonzalez for working with me on addressing overtime issues within the city's fire bureau. That will be an ongoing effort, and I want to thank Commissioner Gonzalez for working with me to address this problem. During the listening sessions, Portlanders made clear that they want the council to support Portland Street Response. My budget fully funds Portland Street Response with ongoing dollars at their current service level to provide them with a stable foundation upon which they can grow. We're making good progress with our public safety goals. Since announcing my goal of hiring 300 PPB staff by December of 2024, we have hired a total of 261 staff within the Portland Police Bureau, including 134 sworn officers and 127 non-sworn staff. Shooting incidents have gone down 42% since 2022. Vehicle thefts are down 36% year by year. My budget formally establishes a new program, Portland Solutions, as a new citywide program within the city administrator's office to address livability issues. Under this new initiative, our Safe Rest Village program, the Temporary Alternative Shelter Site program, the Impact Reduction program, the Public Environment Management Office, and the Street Services Coordination Center will all operate under one umbrella to enhance coordination and service delivery citywide. We'd initially focused these efforts in the central city. The public has spoken. We want to expand this in a way that is the most effective citywide, that is funded in this proposed budget. The city shelter team currently oversees 9 shelters, 576 total units, with 132 more units coming online before the end of the fiscal year, and another site with 160 units slated for completion by the end of the summer. In total, an additional 292 new shelter spaces by the end of my term, bringing the overall number to 868 city-operated shelter units. The majority of these units were all built during the last 3 years. IRP, the Impact Reduction Program, has picked up more than 1.2 million pounds of litter just in March of this year alone, 1.2 million pounds. The Portland the Public Environmental Management Office has continued the tree lighting program. We've lit over 2,400 trees in 7 parks. and 76 city blocks across the central city. We've removed 330,000 pounds, square feet, sorry, 330,000 square feet of graffiti. And we've installed 17 public murals that have been very well received. The Street Services Coordination Center, created in 2022 by my executive directive, and our first ever city outreach team connected 42 people with detox services and got 90 people into shelter and housing in just the last month alone. Many of these programs were piloted during our 90-day resets, and now is the time to ensure that they are memorialized in the city structure and can be taken citywide. We should do this because they are working, they are successful, the numbers demonstrate it, and we should support them. My budget continues to support economic recovery efforts across the city. This budget will establish the Portland Permitting and Development Bureau. This is an historic move to streamline the permitting process for housing developers, business owners, and homeowners alike. I'd like to thank Commissioner Rubio in her capacity as the commissioner in charge of the Bureau of Development Services for her continued leadership in this space, building on the terrific work of Commissioner Mapps and Commissioner Ryan. This budget continues to support the Film and Events Office, which I created last year with Commissioner Mapps, and it establishes the Office of Small Business within Prosper Portland, improving entrepreneurs' access to repair grants, technical assistance for business development, as well as permit navigation. Finally, charter transition work is fully funded within this budget. As you know, this budget is somewhat historic in that it will span both forms of government, with the current council overseeing the first half of the fiscal year and the newly elected mayor overseeing the second half of the fiscal year. This budget funds the new management structure, the physical infrastructure changes that are required, and the onboarding required to ensure that the city and its incoming electeds are ready for business on January 1st, 2025, just as voters wanted, just as I have pledged. In addition, I heard our community express concern in the listening sessions about the funding for the Diversity and Civic Leadership Program, as well as the district coalition offices that support our many neighborhoods. This budget allocates approximately $400,000 additional dollars to the base grant funds for the Diversity and Civic Leadership Program to maintain the funding level that they received in the previous fiscal year. It also allocates an additional $100,000 to the district coalitions to support their alignment and transition to the new district structure. With that, I know that was a little bit dense, but it is a large budget. With that, I've invited a few folks helping guide this work and speak more specifically to the impact of these investments. I'd like to welcome Mike Myers, the future interim Deputy City Administrator of Public Safety, Skylar Brocker-Knapp, the future Director of the Portland Solutions Program, and Donnie Oliveira, the future interim Deputy City Administrator of Community and Economic Development. Director Myers, I'll leave it to you to kick us off. Thank you all.
Well, thank you, Mayor Wheeler. As the mayor shared, his proposed budget fully funds the city's public safety programs. Regarding Portland Police Bureau, we are dedicated to fulfilling the mayor's goal to restaff Portland Police Bureau and have hired dozens of officers this year alone. As we increase staff levels, we also remain committed to accountability and transparency within the Portland Police Bureau and have fully funded the body-worn camera program to enhance public safety and community trust. The program will begin with a rollout at Central Precinct in June, with bureau-wide implementation to be completed by late fall. In preparation, infrastructure work is underway to support the body-worn camera system. We are also continuing our partnership with Multnomah County with one-time funding for the district attorney's retail theft and auto theft task forces. With regarding to Portland Fire and Rescue, the mayor's proposed budget fully funds Portland Fire and Rescue and adds 10 firefighters to help address overtime costs. Funding for Portland Street Response and Community Health Assess and Treat program are included in the budget, facilitating assistance for those in crisis. In reference to gun violence, Our resolve to curb gun violence is unwavering, and we are continuing to support various programs like Portland Ceasefire, the Office of Violence Prevention, and Safe Blocks. The Portland Bureau of Emergency Management, over the last several years, we've experienced severe weather with increasing frequency. This budget establishes a staffer with the Portland Bureau of Emergency Management to develop and oversee severe weather response and coordination with disaster logistics contractors to enhance our preparedness. With that, I'll pass it to Skylar Brucker-Knapp to overview Portland Solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. As the mayor highlighted, the establishment of Portland Solutions marks a significant step forward in creating a hub to address the biggest issues facing our city and improves responsiveness and service coordination to meet the unique needs of every district. Programs like the Temporary Alternative Shelter Site Program, the Public Environment Management Office, and the Street Services Coordination Center have operated under emergency declarations since 2022. Prior to establishing these programs out of the mayor's office, the city did not have a coordinated response to address livability challenges in our neighborhoods. Through problem solver meetings, campsite reports, and individual communication with community members, these teams navigated and circumvented bureaucratic hurdles and cut through red tape to provide services desperately needed after the pandemic. Portland Solutions is the institutionalization of these innovative approaches to urgently respond to the needs on the ground. I appreciate the mayor highlighting the great work of IRP, the SSCC, the city shelter team, and PMO. It is an honor to work with these incredible teams that deliver tangible results every day for Portlanders, and I look forward to continuing to support them as we further expand services. Now I'd like to hand this off to Donnie Oliveira to talk about investments in economic recovery.
Thank you, Sky. As the mayor expressed, this budget continues funding for events, expands support for small businesses, and addresses challenges within our permitting system. And as we continue to focus on addressing the most immediate challenges, we must also continue to commit on building back and supporting prosperity across the city. To that end, Prosper Portland's Film and Events Office provides subsidies, permitting support, and collaboration to diverse cultural and public events across the city. Last year, this office produced beloved large-scale events, including the new Portland Winter Ice Rink, providing nearly $500,000 in grants to community events, and supported major events like the Winter Lights Festival, the Water Blues event, Pride, and the 8 Seconds Juneteenth Rodeo. This initiative not only enriches community life, but also attracts visitors, boosting the local economy and engagement. We have established the Office of Small Business within Prosper Portland as well, which will nurture Portland's innovative spirit and support our local entrepreneurs. This office will serve as a centralized resource, providing the necessary tools and support to foster and sustain the growth of small businesses throughout Portland. Also in budget fiscal year 24-25, we are funding the Portland Permitting and Development Office, which will align all permitting teams within one bureau and reporting to one director. These enhancements will make obtaining permits faster and more user-friendly, benefiting residents and business owners alike. And on the issue of community benefits, this budget dedicates $100 million to supporting the preservation and rehabilitation of low-income multifamily housing. In addition, the budget also captures ongoing investments from Prosper Portland, the Housing Bureau, and the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability to implement the city's housing production strategy. And as the mayor noted earlier, City Bureaus worked in close partnership with the Portland Clean Energy Fund Community Benefits Committee to review and approve over $600 million in City of Portland Bureau projects that align with PSEF goals over the next 5 years. This alignment resulted in service areas receiving the following allocations to be invested over the next 5 years. City operations will receive $29 million in programming for the electrification of our fleet. The Community Economic Development Service Area will be investing $176 million for workforce development and investments in our housing and economic development across the city. Public Works for Water Bureau, Environmental Services, and the Bureau of Transportation will be investing $235 million, and Vibrant Communities will be receiving $167 million, largely for our urban forest investments. This partnership matched specialized funding sources to appropriate projects while executing upon the climate goals of our city and really the questions that Portlanders have been asking us to do in the city investments that we most sorely need. I echo the mayor's enthusiasm about continued partnership, leveraging PSEF resources through the city, our community partnerships, and community leadership across our private sector as well. With that, I'll turn this back to Mayor Wheeler. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. This is my last annual budget as the mayor of Portland. I'm proud of the progress that we've made standing up successful programming to address critical issues and needs in our community. We've continued to keep public safety front and center. We've continued our outreach to those struggling on our streets. And we've continued to uplift our small businesses, our large businesses, and community events. All the while, we're full steam ahead on our government transition, and we have successfully navigated an incredibly difficult fiscal year as a team. It's been an honor to serve this community and produce a budget that funds what I believe are thoughtful and effective solutions and stabilizes city services for the next group of electeds and their staff to take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, folks, we're going to open it up to questions now. We want to keep this focused on the mayor's budget. We recognize that there's a lot going on right now. Like the mayor said, in the next couple of hours, we're going to have a joint press event where we can acknowledge some of the public safety issues going on right now. Currently, let's talk about the budget. Got the mayor here. We also have the Portland City staff that was just presenting. So if you want to put up your hand, we should be able to unmute you and we'll get those going. It looks like Shane, you have the first question.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Rock and roll. So this is sort of budget number specific, so maybe budget staff can help with this. What is the actual amount of proposed appropriation for discretionary funds this year? Last year, it was $708 million per city budget office. What is it this year?
Ruth, do you have that? What, one section?
Sure.
I have a room full of smart people, so they're looking online here. Shane, can we get back to you in a couple of minutes on that? We're looking it up.
Sure. And if
Okay.
you're looking that up, the other one I will ask, that's number heavy. Mayor, you mentioned that the original budget gap the city was facing was $70 million. Through sort of requested budget reductions, you shaved off $11.9 million. Does that mean that the remaining approximately $58 million was closed through PSEF funding? I want to get a figure for how much money from PSEF is going to help support this year's budget and how to characterize that.
Do you know this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you want to
Okay,
pop up
Ruth,
here.
come on up and just introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Ruth.
Sure. Hi, I'm Ruth Levine. I'm the Deputy Director of the City Budget Office. So on your first question on the general fund funding, it's right around $1 billion total. And then on the second question about sort of how we closed the $70 million budget gap, there's a mix of sources in there. So the first step was the 5% constraint that the mayor talked about. So essentially spending cuts. That was, again, for all the bureaus except Portland Police Bureau, Portland Fire and Rescue, and the Bureau of Emergency Communications. After that, we were able to identify some one-time underspending in the current fiscal year that we could apply to the budget for next fiscal year. And then additionally, through sort of matching specialized resources like Portland Clean Energy Fund with city programming, we were able to realize close some budget gaps in the general fund side.
So, but there is a distinction between general fund and discretionary, available discretionary spending. So I'm asking about discretionary, not general fund in general.
You want just the general fund discretionary number?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I need to pull that. Could I just send it to you right after this?
Thank you. That'd be great.
Okay. Thanks.
Perfect. All right. Does anybody else have any questions while we're here? I know folks are kind of covering different items right now. Shane, again, last question.
Well, I wanted to find out, Mayor, you mentioned that you're planning to fully fund Portland's transition, the charter transition. I know that the small donor election program has asked and said at this point that it needed an additional $7.5 million to fully fund the matching funds program for this upcoming election. How much money have you proposed giving to them this year?
What is the base? What is it? 1.4. 1.4. And that's the same as last time. Is that correct? So Shane, it's 1.4 million. That's the same as last time. A little bit of context here. First of all, the budget office did not recommend funding this program It was not seen as one of the top priorities around transition funding. There are other aspects to the transition that are higher priority. When this program was created, it was created with a 5-person city council and 1 mayor. At any given time, typically there would be no more than a couple of people running for public office. I think the max you could ever have under that scenario in a typical year would have been 4 people. Under the new charter, we have dozens of people running. And so obviously that funding won't go as far as it did before, but there is still a match. Each of the candidates are eligible to qualify for the match. It's not as generous as the match was when there was just a smaller group of people running for public office. That does mean that the candidates will have to do more work in the community to support their campaigns. And hopefully the budget situation will improve for the city council next year. And we'll leave it to them in the next year to decide whether it's a top priority for them to go ahead and increase the funding for that program. But we really wanted to focus on the organizational change. We wanted to focus on the district creation. We wanted to focus on issues related to voter information, given that it's a ranked choice voting program, and the other issues related to the transition. Those were my choices in terms of prioritization.
All right, let's turn it over to OPB.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great. This is Bryce Dole with OPB. I have 2 questions that are also involving the Portland Clean Energy Fund. I kind of wonder, can you describe what the state of the city's budget would be if the city didn't have this fund to fill budget gaps? Like what would the condition be and then?
Yeah, I'll give the general answer, and then I think Ruth is madly finding more specific data. It was critical to this budget. Without the partnership of the leadership of the Portland Clean Energy Fund, we would have had to take more significant cuts, particularly in our non-public safety bureaus. And the goal, the partnership that we tried to achieve here was to make sure that the funding in the Clean Energy Fund, the excess projected revenues, were coming into the city to fund programs that were specifically allowable under the Clean Energy Fund ballot measure. So it's still being spent consistent with what the voters had intended. And that frees up more of these discretionary dollars to support ongoing city programs that are also important to the community. And I highlighted a number of those programs.
Okay.
All right, thank you guys so much. We know there's a lot going on, so keep an eye out. We'll have an update in the next couple of hours on a new media engagement. And again, we have a ton of info on the mayor's website that was just published regarding the budget. So take a look at that.
I'll also be there for the PPB press conference.
Yeah, for the next couple of hours.
Questions, I'll be there as well.
Perfect. Thanks so much. We'll end it there.
Thank you, everybody.